I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but if I can be the hardest working guy in the room, then I can get a little bit of a head start. And I love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job.
Welcome back to The Deal. I'm Jason Kelly alongside Alex Rodriguez. So excited today to have Zak Brown, the CEO of McLaren Racing, here with me in studio. Great to have you here.
Good to be here. Good to see everyone.
You are in the midst of such an interesting industry, but really one of the most interesting and exciting teams in this sport, McLaren in Formula One specifically. Talk to us about this past year and what it's felt like. You win the Constructors' Championship, a real turnaround from where this team was when you took over. What was the key decision?
People is kind of the best way to summarize it, but there's obviously a lot that goes into that. When I started in 2017, we had our worst year in the history of McLaren. We were 9th in the championship. We had none of these beautiful logos.
9th out of 10.
9 out of 10. That's not very good. It's terrible, matter of fact. Morale was down. Huge brand, but, kind of like the Yankees, they expect you to win, and if you're not winning, the boos are kind of louder than if you're kind of a team no one cares about, which is both a blessing in some sense, but also a challenge in another. It was just not a great place. And so I started by trying to fix the leadership team, right? Everything kind of the buck starts at the top. Got the right people in place. Got everyone rowing the same direction, playing as a team, because this is, McLaren Racing's 1,400 people. About 1,000 of those are on the Formula One team. And get it, everyone building trust, belief, backing each other up. And now 9 years later, we're won our first world championship in 26 years, which is kind of crazy, because when I grew up watching McLaren, they kind of won everything all the time. And we fell far from behind that. But people, of course, we invested in technology. We got great sponsors involved. All those things came together. 2 awesome drivers, which I'm sure we'll talk about here.
Oh, yeah.
Because having 2 awesome drivers isn't without its challenges at times. But it's been a great journey, and now we're at the top. Now the tricky part is managing all the expectations and trying to stay at the top, because in sport, you don't stay on top forever. So enjoy it while you can.
And so when you think about where this sport has come, especially in the United States, where we are now, obviously the Drive to Survive effect, everything that's happening, 3 Grand Prix here in the United States. What needs to happen next to sort of, as we say in the investment business, is sort of consolidate the gains and keep growing? What needs to happen?
I think it's kind of that, in the sense of what we're doing is working. So let's keep kind of incrementally improving, but let's not change the game, because we as a sport, we're winning. I think we have 24 races now. We have demand for more. We can't do more in a year. So I'm a fan of, let's go to 20 fixed Grand Prix and go to 8 Grand Prix that rotate every other year, so you can get some geographic expansion, but not on an annual basis, because these 24 races around the world, we can't do 25. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of not grow. I think if I look at North America, our TV ratings, if you compare it to the big leagues here, a lot of room for growth. I don't think we need more than 3 Grand Prix here. I think we could have more than 3 Grand Prix, but that would come at the expense of getting into India or South Africa or Korea or some of the other areas I think we need to expand into. Sponsorship is unbelievable. New brands coming in, every day. The Googles, the Goldmans, these companies weren't involved in Formula One historically, so it's very healthy. We have the franchise value is finally caught on. If you look at these MLB or NBA or NFL teams, Formula One teams are, as a franchise owner, are all healthy. So let's keep doing what we're doing, but let's keep making incremental gains. The Netflix was amazing for our sport. I think the Brad Pitt movie coming out in June will be awesome. I think that will turn a lot more people on to the sport. And if you look at where the sport needed to grow from pre-Liberty acquiring it, we didn't have the diversity that we needed. We didn't have the youth that we needed.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have North America, arguably, if not the most important sports and commercial marketplace. We didn't have as many women. And now you look at the audience, I just got stopped coming in here, and it's my women, and it's youth, and it's diversity, it's North America. And, in New York, kind of one of my favorite funny stories is I was staying at a hotel here when Netflix came out, and I pull up to the hotel, and there's these two buses and the fans everywhere. And, it's either there's a baseball team or a football team. And I come in, I go upstairs, shower, I'm going to go down to dinner, and I get in the elevator. Two guys, 7'3", so it's like, okay, basketball team.
Yeah.
But I don't follow basketball closely, so I made a funny joke to the guys. Hey, you here for the tennis? And they kind of laughed and giggled at me, probably thinking, who is this guy? Let's beat him up. But they were super nice. Get out of the elevator. Lakers everywhere. All right, it's the Lakers, and they're going to the bus. They won't sign for the fans because they got to get to the bus, but they're very friendly.
Yeah.
Just, sorry, got to get to the bus. And I'm walking out with them for the front door, and these three fans popped out from this group. They go, "Can we get your autograph?" And they're like, "Sorry, we're not signing." No, not you, Mr. Brown. We love Formula One. And these two guys looked at me like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And that was New York, right?
Yeah.
And New York was the last place in the world that was a Formula One city up until a few years ago. So it's been awesome for the sport. So I think we need to keep exposing people to our sport, and I think that's what Netflix did, is they showed us what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, Zach, from the outside as Americans, and I'm probably in the minority in this now because your game has grown so much, your sport, but it's quite intimidating from afar, right? Until you get to know, like, Drive for Survive, and you start getting into it a little bit. I've been to a few races, and it's really, really exciting. It's a great product. I remember seeing you and your team in Vegas, and it was awesome. But what is the business model? How do you make money? What are your largest revenue streams? What are your largest fixed costs? Explain that for our listeners a little bit, high level.
Yeah, absolutely. So our revenue streams are pretty simple. The strong majority is commercial sponsorship. Our revenues this year will be over £600 million, which is a record for us, and I believe in Formula One. That's probably 3/4 of our revenue. Then you get effectively prize money from Formula One, and we get paid this year on last year's results, and then the teams get the majority, not enough of the majority, from the league, and then that's distributed based on how you finished and some historical prize money, if you'd like. So we get paid that in arrears. That goes up or down depending on the revenue Formula One generates. Formula One's generating the revenue from broadcast money, sponsorship, and promoter fees to put on the events. And the promoters keeping the gate, the grandstand sales. Then, of course, there's licensed merchandise. So we really only kind of have three main revenue streams: sponsorship, Formula One monies, and then the licensing revenues. And then we have a cost cap, which is what's driven the competitiveness in the sport, and also until
that's only been around for
since Liberty got involved, and that's been a game changer. Last year we had 7 different winners, 4 different teams that won multiple races. Never in the history since I've followed the sport have we had that level of competitiveness. And the problem that we had is before there was a cost cap, you could spend as much as you could afford to lose. That was kind of the name of the game.
Yeah.
And when you had a big OEM coming in who could afford to spend a lot, big manufacturer, but it was great value for them because of the exposure, they could just outspend you. And then you get a discrepancy on the playing field because, especially in our sport, we're so dependent upon technology. If you can outspend, you just buy better technology, not just
better engineers
and more engineers, better engineers, more engineers. And so that's now been capped, and that's given everybody a chance to be competitive, and the whole grid is now covered by 2%. So there's not much between the best and the worst. So the sport's really healthy as an on-track product.
We're getting into what everybody wants to hear, which is you have a champagne problem, which is, you alluded to it at the top of the conversation, you have 2 awesome drivers. You won the Constructors' Championship, which is the team championship, last year. I have the benefit of co-hosting this show with a superstar. who has some experience being one of a couple superstars on a team, and now is in a position where he has to manage superstars. So we want to chop it up on this with you. Alex has some advice, but I'll ask you, like, what is the macro approach for you to managing Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, who are, by all accounts, battling it out for the championship?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to hear what Alex has to say, because especially when you join the Yankees, there was a couple guys playing the same position.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious how that kind of played out. But for us, it's about transparency, communication, fairness, and we're going to get it wrong. But let's trust each other. If we get it wrong, it's not going to be because we tried to get it wrong or we were up. So, when we come into a race weekend, we sit down with both drivers on Thursday. Here's the game plan. Here's on what car, because sometimes you do get into a situation where you're trying to get upgrades to the track so quickly. Sometimes you can't have, and these are small upgrades, both cars with the same stuff. So what you don't want to do is not tell one driver. And when you do, hey, this guy's getting the upgrades this weekend. Here's why. Or you got them last time. You kind of keep score. Then on Sunday after qualifying, so we know what the grid looks like, we talk. And we talk about strategy. Hey, he might be on a harder tire, softer tire. That might mean this might happen in the race. And so you just open, transparent, fair, and then give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And I'm also a big fan of, if something goes wrong, unless you can fix it right then and there, let's just talk about it on Monday. Because in sport, the adrenaline's going, the passion's going, and you can say some stuff that you don't mean, but you've said it. And even though you can say sorry on Monday morning, you've said it. So kind of leave the helmets on, and don't let the media, because the media love a good a good fight.
This is the story of the season,
and it's and everyone's kind of waiting for it to happen. And what we're saying is, hey, it's going to happen. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. But you know what? Drivers make mistakes. You can have two guys racing as hard as they are, 24 races. Someone's going to get it wrong or driving it. It's not going to be intentional.
Yeah.
It's going to be good, hard racing. And you know what? It's a mistake. Mistakes happen. So keep your helmet on. Don't take the bait, because I've seen in our IndyCar team, we had two drivers that were battling it out last year, and one of our drivers gave a great interview, and then at the end gave a little bit of a soundbite, which was okay. But then I saw the media go to the other driver, and they went, "Hey, your teammate just said this," which was the soundbite. That's not what he said. Luckily, because our drivers are good guys, and I think kind of coming back, Alex, to what you say, interviewing people, I don't think all drivers will play this way, but our drivers will play this way because of the relationship we have. And it's like, don't take the bait, and the driver didn't take the bait, because had he, then they would have gone back to the other driver.
Right.
And then, next thing you know, you have a war of words, and actually it was just been instigated. So we're ready for it. We're quite relaxed about it, and we've even said, we can't wait till it happens, because we think it's going to be a non-event.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to be a bit disappointed.
Right.
And then can we just move on and get back to racing?
Right. All right, so Alex, come on in here, because you've been on the other side of this. You show up in New York. I mean, I'll name the names. You show up in New York. You're considered one of the best shortstops, who's ever played the game. And as Zach said, somebody's playing that position. His name's Derek Jeter. He's really good at baseball.
He's pretty good at shortstop too.
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
And so
Yeah, go
what
ahead.
was it like? I mean, like, what is it like? Because, you were, I don't know, people can make their own decisions. You were either Lando or Oscar in this case. But, like, what was it like from your perspective?
Well, I think it was the perfect storm, just like Zach, like what you're managing today, right? And you have the enormous brands that's similar, right? You have your McLaren brand. We have the New York Yankees. You have two stars in their primes. You have a blue chip, legendary owner, right? George Steinbrenner. That's the role you're playing. And I think George, for me,
Wow, you
set
got
the
to be
standard.
Steinbrenner.
I like it. I like it.
This is
Say
good.
that again.
This is
That's a
good.
great headline right there.
That's pretty good. George was the best. And Mr. Steinbrenner, he set the boundaries from day one. He said, Alex, if you want to be a Yankee, I can make that happen. But let's be clear, you're going to be a third baseman. And I said to Mr. Steinbrenner on a phone call, it was about a 7-minute phone call, I said, I'll do one better for you. If you ever play me to short, I'll ask for a trade. That's the deal. I'm the third baseman. Derek's the shortstop. And Derek and I have had great conversations about this, 20 years later, on how much he respected that there was never one rumor about me wanting to play short. And I think, Zach, for me, I got it wrong the first 4 years because I always wanted to justify. I was a little bit too chatty for New York. And coming from Seattle and Texas, much smaller markets, you could be chatty and you wouldn't get, penalized. So finally, after 4 years of a lot of pain and mistakes on my part, in '09, it all came together. We kind of put the name of the brand and not the names of our last names at the very front, and we won a title. And when you win, we all win. And I think one of the lessons that I learned is learn and keep the door shut, because to your point, if you leave it open, the media's going to run with it. So be very absolute, be very black and white, and don't justify anything because the media is not your friend. They're looking for reality TV. And the first 4 years, I gave them that. And then after that, it was much better.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there with kind of don't give them too much, because the more you talk, the more likely you are to say something by accident. And so actually, I think less is more when you're the profile now that Lando and Oscar and McLaren or Steinbrenner and Jeter and A-Rod, like you want to talk because you actually just want to kind of explain things. It's an innocent delivery, but they're waiting for that, ooh, I can use that soundbite right there. And then you kind of get pissed off, don't you, when you read it. And then I think you do have to kind of learn by your mistakes. I've done the same thing, myself over the years many times. And you know what? I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to hopefully try and do it less frequently.
I mean, I guess, my follow-up, Zach, is, I mean, this is I think unique to motorsport, that you would have this situation. And so I do wonder, as a CEO making business decisions around this is the cards you've been dealt. I think those of us who, like the business of Formula One, and certainly Liberty Media would probably say, yeah, this is a feature, not a bug, you're welcome. So how do you approach it as someone running this business? Are there different decisions you make around sponsorship, around, appearances? Like what do you do to sort of, I guess, maximize this moment?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. What's never really been done before that I can remember is two drivers competing for the world championship in the same team.
Right.
And it not ending in tears. That's the reality. Andrea Stella, who's our team principal, who's responsible for the performance of the Formula One team, does an amazing job. And P.K. Mansell, tears. Rosberg, Hamilton, tears. Senna, Prost, tears. Like I can't remember the last time there weren't tears. But we're gonna be different, and we're on it. And I think I'm a believer in, right now we're on top, but I don't want us to act too much differently, because I also recognize there will be, it's not if, it's when. Now I hope when we're not on top, we're just second or third, not ninth. I'd like to think we're on top of things now, but I also don't ever want to, like with our sponsor partners, be like, we're the hottest team in Formula One right now, and we're going to charge a premium. Because the first thing that's going to happen is the minute we're not the hottest team in Formula One, they're going to go like, well, wait a minute. So I want to be kind of consistent. I don't want us to change our personality, if you'd like, and be like, we're the big guys on the block now, and have some humility about what we're doing and keep our feet on the ground. It wasn't that long ago we were ninth in the championship. Enjoy the moment. Bring everyone along for the journey. I mean, one of the reasons why, this orange that we call papaya is our team, I thought, was dark and exclusive when I joined, and I wanted us to be warm and inclusive, and a lot of that is our drivers. And I remember the first race I went to, I was 10 years old, Long Beach Grand Prix, 1981. You guys will have the same experience in various sports. The impression it made on me, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the first racing driver that I met. I got his autograph. And I also remember over the years, every athlete I've met that wasn't so nice. And so I want to make sure we're nice guys 100% of time. To stop for 98% of the fans, that's not good enough. And we're fortunate the drivers we have are great guys.
Yeah.
I've never seen them not stop for sign a photo or take a picture, because at the end of the day, we're in the sport and entertainment business, and some of the people in our sport go, well, it's not entertainment. I was like, well, wait a minute. It's my time off. I'm buying a ticket to go watch something, or I'm sitting on my couch and watching. How's that not entertainment?
The very definition of it.
It's totally. So we need to be entertaining for our fans and not lose sight of the fact that all of our number one customer is the fan. Without a fan, we don't have countries that want to hold races. Without fans, we don't have sponsors. So when you see some of the drivers in Formula One kind of not appreciate the fans, how do they think they get paid at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just very important for us all to be fan focused. And so the more I can expose the fan base to McLaren and our cool drivers, and the better off we are. And it feels good. I remember the impression it's left on me.
Yeah. So Jason mentioned Zach early. He alluded to how busy you are, and you're one of the busiest guys in the world. But yet, you're traveling the world. You're doing a great job managing your defending championship team. You answer emails like in seconds, and you hit me on WhatsApp at all hours of the night. I do the same thing right back to you. What does a typical Monday, Tuesday look like for Zak Brown?
They're all flat out is probably the only common aspect. I've always believed I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but if I can be the hardest working guy in the room, then I can get a little bit of a head start. And I love what I do. It doesn't feel like a job, right? I mean, you're playing baseball for the Yankees. I mean, okay, I know it's a job, but you know what? I love that job. And I'm going racing for a living. It wasn't long ago I was playing with little Hot Wheels cars. I'm just playing with the bigger versions now. And so I love it. And it doesn't mean, it's unbelievably hard. There's immense amount of pressure. It's not easy. It's not always fun, but 95% of the time it's great. And so I get up every day, and every day is kind of a new adventure. I think my view is I work for the race team. The racing team doesn't work for me. So my job as manager, if you'd like, is how do I get the best out of all the players on the field and in the factory? What do you need? Do you need direction? Do you need more resources? Do you need more employees? Whatever it may be. So I'm constantly going around trying to figure out, what does everybody need? What do my sponsors need? How can I deliver on that? So I'm constantly trying to give everyone in our ecosystem what they need to get the most out of their time at McLaren. And, it's 270 nights a year on the road. So I travel like a lunatic. I'm at the racetrack. I race 4 or 5 times a year. I raced this past weekend. So probably not healthy that on my weekend off from being at the racetrack, I went back to the racetrack.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I got a chance to drive, actually sit in the back for a race. We did one lap, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I thought I was dead. I did 14 Hail Marys, a lot of prayers. In baseball, I wish you could have a camera, just like you could for the drivers, so people at home can say, how are they even – you can't even see the ball when it's coming in 100 miles an hour.
I've been, and I'm sure you've done the same, Alex, play professional with a professional golfer.
Yeah.
Sit courtside in an NBA. The professionals are just at a level that until you kind of see it, you go, when I'm golfing, I'm trying to go that way.
Yeah. When
you're playing with Justin Rose or Rory, and I've been fortunate to play, I'm trying to go that way, but land it there, put some backspin on it, and it's like, what is going? And they just, professionals in sports see the game, play the game, unlike a way you can really appreciate it until you're close up, and then it's just like, wow.
So it's interesting, Zach. You alluded to this with your great story about being in an elevator and sort of seeing what Formula One became. I do wonder for you what it's been like and how you've managed essentially. And again, I may pose this question to my co-host as well. Like becoming really famous. I mean, you walked through Bloomberg and people are asking for selfies. I've seen this happen with other team principals. There aren't a lot of team principals and CEOs who get stopped for selfies, but like you and Toto and Gunther when he was a team principal, Gunther Steiner, all get stopped. What was that transition like for you? How do you manage it and still sort of maintain your sort of job and your management responsibilities?
Well, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
Because, the fans, they can't control when they bump into you. And the fans are 99 out of 100 times really gracious, really nice, other than maybe when they get a hold of you on social media. That kind of challenges, that goes kind of more to 1 out of 100. But putting that aside.
Alex is nodding knowingly for people who are just listening.
And they're excited to see you.
Yeah.
And so I think, if you're going to be in the public spotlight, you kind of can't turn it on and off. It is what it is. And, so I always stop for photos, and, people are excited and cheering for McLaren this weekend and in airports. And so you do have to kind of raise your awareness. Security is something that you need to think a little bit about, which is unfortunate, but is the reality. But I've always felt that way in my own mind. It's part of it. It comes back to the entertainment aspect. I've seen some celebrities over the years that we all have that are kind of, I'm not working right now. It's like, dude, you signed up to be in the public spotlight.
Yeah.
You're working. There could be times it's a bit more inconvenient, if you like. I mean, it can be a little bit strange when you're in the bathroom and someone wants to take a selfie. That's I'd wait. But I also remember when I was a fan waiting to meet the Alexes of the world. I was the guy waiting at the ballpark. Got there early, figured out where the players parked their car, wanted their autograph, and so I get it. I was there, and it comes back to I remember what impression it made on me, and so I'm it's changed things, but I'm good with it.
Yeah. How have you dealt with it, Alex? I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show.
No, we haven't, Jace. But, for me, that process mindset was shaped early in my career because they say you never want to meet your heroes. But in my case, it was wonderful that I met my heroes. I mean, from Michael Jordan to Cal Ripken, Keith Hernandez, Magic Johnson, they were all honestly 10 out of 10. And I told myself when I was a teenager, boy, if I ever was that famous, I want to be like Magic. I want to be like Michael. I want to be like Cal Ripken. But early in my career, it's flipped, Jason, to answer your question more specifically. I thought the media was a nuance, like something you had to deal with, but I thought they were against me, right? Because in New York, you want to play defense against the media. And then the fan base was something you had to kind of dance around to get some privacy. Today, it's completely flipped with some perspective. I realized that without fans, you don't have a sport, you don't have a team. We're really kind of working for them, even though we're not a public company, at least us. Is as close as public as you can be. And then the media is a great conduit to our fan base. And you've seen it in, Drive to Survive, your F1 show. And you've seen it with content that NBA is providing, MLB. It's an incredible, important part of our business. And that has switched a lot for me.
You must have had an even bigger challenge, though, because while, I'm known on Netflix, when you came to the Yankees, that was more like royalty level of publicity, right?
Yeah.
It was like, with me, they just want to know what's going on the track. With you, they want to know what's going on the field, what's off the field, what restaurant were you at. They wanted to know kind of about you 24/7. And that I would imagine is a higher degree of frustration or annoyance when it's like, look, this isn't about a fan coming up asking for an autograph. This is about you trying to dive into my personal life, and fortunately I haven't had to deal with that.
Yeah. Zach, you're spot on. And there was 3 things, and I played in New York for almost 15 years. There was 3 things I did religiously every morning, 365, 24/7. When I woke up, I pull out the New York Post, and I would look at the front page. I'm not there. Look at the back page. I'm not there. And then you look at page 6. It was a trifecta. If you made it clear on those 3, it's a good day. You live to see another day.
And the problem was those 3 pages weren't about how you hit last night.
Right.
I mean, they wanted something a little bit more gossipy than that. And I think that gets frustrating because they can kind of start to shape your image in a way that's not accurate. I've met so many people that I didn't know, so I had an impression, I was formed because of what I've read.
Yeah.
And then you meet him, I'm like, man, that guy couldn't be totally opposite, more misunderstood. And so you've learned to give everyone the kind of, I want to get to know the person and not kind of just believe what I read.
And Zach, one of the head fakes that I've seen athletes do is they make a mistake to the media, and then the journalist does his job. He writes a story, and then the athlete gets mad at the media member. And you got to realize, wait a minute, they got a job to do. You made a mistake. Correct your mistake. Do it. Less is more. Apply to what you're talking about, Zach. And don't get mad at the reporter. So that's another dynamic that is so easy to blame the reporter. Not look in the mirror and say, okay, how did I make a mistake here?
Totally.
I got to do a better job managing my message.
Totally agree.
Look at Alex defending journalists. This is like, I feel like my work here is done. Like, this is amazing.
It's all come full circle.
This is just, I don't know. What a moment. What a moment we all just witnessed. So we're going to get to our lightning round in just a minute, because I know you got to go. But, I did want to ask you, sort of in the spirit of the deal, you've somewhat quietly sort of really built under McLaren Racing, like, an empire. You talked about Formula One, you talked about Indy, you're going back to Le Mans, you're doing a little racing yourself. Like, what's next for the business? This is a booming sport right now. I have to think you're leaning into other opportunities. Are they motorsports related? Are there other sports you're interested in? We're in such an, we're in such an interesting moment of growth in the sports ecosystem. Where do you see opportunity?
Yeah, I think, we've only won one world championship in the last 26 years, so I think we're far from tick. That's
Sure.
done. So obviously, as a sports team, it's all about winning and trying to win. So we are the only racing team who have ever won the Triple Crown, which is the Indy 500, the 24 Hours Le Mans, and Monaco. No team has ever done that in the same era or same year. We're now competing, or going to be competing, in all three of those series, the Le Mans series in 2027. So it would be pretty cool to do something that's never been done before that can be a Jeopardy question 20 years from now. So I think we all have an aspect of looking back and what's kind of the legacy you can create, because you can't rewrite the record book. So a lot of winning left still to do in all three series. That's first foremost. We're looking at a few different ways that we could maybe extend our brand into maybe some other sporting equipment, golf, skiing, tennis. Those are some, sports that are using aerodynamics, using materials that are premium. There's a lot of our sponsors are also in golf. So I think if there was Ferrari has the Ferrari World Theme Park in Abu Dhabi, and then you've seen Porsche's got the Porsche Towers. So, but we're a racing team first and foremost. But if there's, from a business point of view, a few areas that we might be able to extend our brand, that would be of interest to us. But I think it's kind of, let's stay focused. If you're a baseball team, don't try and be a football team.
Right.
You're a baseball team, and we're a racing team. And I like the three racing series that we're in. They're the three biggest forms of motor racing. We've not won the Indy 500 since 1976. So that's a focus before we think about doing anything else.
All right. So 5 questions. We'll bounce it back and forth and just, say whatever comes to your mind. All right. Zak Brown, what's the best piece of advice you've received on deal making or business?
Don't make the same mistake twice.
Who's your dream deal making partner?
Ooh, good question. I think that'd have to be Roger Penske.
Oh, great one. Very good one. Very good one. We got to get him on the show.
Roger's awesome.
We do.
We got to work on that. We both pitched him on it, and I think he's going to do it. All right.
He travels like 271 days a year. I can't keep up with that guy.
He's unbelievable. All right. What's the most nervous you've ever been?
I mean, usually the start of the race, but I would say Abu Dhabi last year when we won the championship, because Saturday qualifying was perfect, first and second. The Ferrari was 17th. Turn 1, Max Verstappen takes out Oscar. Oscar's last. Charles has an unbelievable start. He's 8th.
Charles Leclerc.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I saw our championship going away. Lando had to win that race to win the championship. And so that was the longest 2 hours of my life. So I'd say that was the most nervous.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right
for
there.
2 hours, too. I don't mind nervous, like, start of the race. It's over. Nervous getting up to the bat, but kind of like once the pitcher winds up, this was 2 hours of that.
So what's your hype song before you walk into a big meeting or negotiation?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't really have a hype song. Snoop Dogg's a pretty cool dude. I kind of like rap, high energy. So the guys that are doing kind of classical musical on the grid, I kind of like the adrenaline.
You go the other one. All right. So what's your advice for someone listening who wants a career like yours?
Everyone says hard work, but it's amazing how many people don't actually do it, and they're just getting experience and networking. And I sometimes have people come in and they have big aspirations, which are great, but they kind of want to start there as opposed to work their way up. So I think it's just get experience, get to know people, and follow your passion. That's all I've ever done. I didn't this wasn't my plan. I just knew I wanted to be in racing my entire life, and I've just worked really hard, and I've been fortunate to land where I am.
Zak Brown, you are a gentleman. Thank you very much.
I got two. Can I do two for A-Rod?
Yeah. Sure. Go for it.
All right. Toughest pitcher you ever faced?
I would say 1999 Pedro Martinez. He can do it all. He had 3 perfect pitches: a fastball at 100, 91 mile-an-hour slider, and Bugs Bunny changeup.
Okay. Yeah, Pedro was he was unbelievable. I guess he had also the inside pitch if he felt you might take him long. So that would be his 4th pitch. And then who's the best hitter you played with?
Boy, that's such a great question. I would say the best right-handed hitter I ever played with was Edgar Martinez, who's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, of course.
And probably the best complete right-handed hitter, and there's so many, I would say Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. And the last one, who was your favorite ball player growing up? Like that you didn't play with, but like who's your idol?
Well, I had 3, and they all had to do with media because these, as you remember when we were kids, there was the 3 big stations. You had WR, where you watch the Mets. You had TBS, where you watch the Braves. And then you had WGN, where you watch the Cubs. And so therefore it was Dale Murphy, Keith Hernandez from the Mets, and I love Darryl Strawberry as well.
Awesome. Except I'm a Cardinals guy, so I'd say Keith Hernandez from the Cardinals.
Oh,
but I know not on the same channel.
And of course, Cal Ripken, because he was a tall shortstop, and that was my guy.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Zak, great to spend some time with you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Zak.
Thanks, guys.